I'm very excited about today's episode as we'll tap into a subject that not only fascinates me, but that is part of our daily lives here at MG Empower. We are going to talk about community building with a real expert, Manouska Jeantus. Manouska is the community lead at Miro.
The first thing for me is like a quality customer experience. Their customer experience is so amazing that it makes you want to tell your friends. It makes you want to write a review. It makes you want to become an affiliate. All those things drive that emotional relationship to a brand.
How important is it for you to kind of have that brand behavior when it comes to kind of adjusting to community feedback, being able to receive product feedback and be able to make adjustments?
I truly believe that, especially nowadays, it's not just about co-creating with influence in a brand, but adding the consumer into that co-creation element as well.
You'll notice I say community and customer often because I always want to be very clear that just because someone purchases from you doesn't mean that they're a part of your community.
Right.
Welcome everyone, I'm Maira Genovese, the founder and president of MG Empower, a fully integrated marketing powerhouse, and this is our Influencer Marketing Uncover podcast. I'm very excited about today's episode as we'll tap into a subject that not only fascinates me, but that is part of our daily lives here at MG Empower. We are going to talk about community building with a real expert, Manouska Jeantus. Manouska is the community lead at Miro, the pioneer online collaborative whiteboard with more than 35 million users. It will be an insightful one, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. But to receive our guest and to have this incredible conversation, I have once again with me my dear Raphaël, which I don't know how to pronounce correctly his French surname, but he will do it for me. So he's our managing director based in New York, a dear, that is been working with us for the past almost 6 months, but feels like a year. And he has an incredible experience of building brands and creating community as well. So no one better than Raphaël could join me on this episode. He's coming all the way to New York, and welcome, Rafa.
Thank you, Maira, for having me co-hosting the Influencer Marketing Uncovered podcast. I am very excited about welcoming our esteemed guest, Manouska Jeantus. We got a chance to meet just a few months ago, kind of working on a project for a new exciting brand that's going to come out next year. And I've loved her insight and collaborative spirit. And it's been a pleasure to work with her. So I'm sure you're going to be learning a lot from her. Just to kind of give you a little bit of insight into her background, she was previously, before joining Miro, she was previously at Glossier, kind of overseeing their community engagement. So having just made the jump from beauty into the tech world, I think it will be really interesting perspective. And prior to that, she was in the editorial world, working with All the Oprah magazine, where she kind of got to start kind of fostering engagement within communities through the platform from the Oprah magazine. So welcome, Manouska, and very happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you. What an amazing intro from you both. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you again, Manouska, and thank you, Rafa. And yes, we met. When did we meet, Manouska? 3 months ago? 4 months ago?
It feels like so long ago. I feel like we've been the best of friends, but yeah, we met a couple months ago working on this amazing project, and I've been connecting with you all since and just been so inspired by what you all are building. So I'm excited.
Amazing. Yes, we met. We did a very special project together. We actually co-create a new brand that's coming soon. We cannot reveal much, but that is how we met, the wonder of Manouska. And then today we're going to talk a lot about community building, because it's where you have the truly experience on that. And then, as I said, here at MG Empower, on our day-to-day lives, it's all about working with our clients and really helping them to crave and then understand how to create a community. So All brands need to build a community, right? Especially nowadays when we're moving to Web 2, to Web 3.0, Web 3.0, we all know that the key, factor for you to succeed in Web 3.0 will be to build community. So more than anything, brands now wanted to have a community. So to start a conversation to this point, the question to you is like how brands can build a successful community.
I mean, I think, community has become such a buzzword. And so it's really important for each brand to define what community means for them. And I think the first step in wanting to foster and cultivate that community is starting with a really good product or service. Like you can't galvanize people around your brand if there's nothing to talk about. If the product isn't good, if the customer service isn't amazing, if the experience, through the service isn't amazing, like what are people galvanizing and advocating and getting together around? And so I think, defining for you what community means, but also making sure that you have that first part of a really good product and a really good service, I think is critical. And then of course, creating the tactics and creating like the environment for that community to be healthy and to thrive, I think is super, super important.
And how to, like when you say about tactics, right? So, and I agree with you, the most important question that brands should be asking first is like, what's the objective of us creating this community, and understand if the product will have the appealing to that community that they wanted to build. When you talk about tactics, because there's a perception of brands that community should be just in one channel, what I'm saying, like, or on Instagram or on TikTok or YouTube, but community is beyond one social platform, right? So how do you see, like when it comes to tactical, what will be some examples that you can give on that element? And also, how do you see community beyond social channels? Because on my perspective, community is not just on social, so you have to build community to go, beyond that. Would love to get your perspective on that, community beyond social.
Okay, those are so good questions. There are a couple of things in there. So once you've identified what community means for you, it's now about identifying those customers that are most engaged with your product, your brand, your service. And community is really thinking about people who are emotionally connected to your brand and that they want to advocate for you. And they also want to, in time, be like brand loyalists, like they become brand loyalists. And some of the tactics that you can use in engaging with those people is identifying where they're talking about you. So some people are talking about you in your, Instagram comments. Some people are coming to your physical locations and, visiting tons, buying tons, and like telling their other friends to come, along with you to visit. And so when I think about the channels that you engage people on, it's online and offline. Those are like the two main ones. So that can be anything from a social media account, could be anything from like a Discord or like some sort of, everyone has their version of a verse, a Web3, like a metaverse. And so it could be in that digital environment, or it can be offline. So in a retail store or, pop-ups or meet and greets, anywhere that can get you into a physical location to engage with the brand and, purchase from them, connect with others. And then there's that piece around like Web3, this like immersive universe of connecting with other people in a totally like digitally immersive way, which I know we'll probably get into a little bit more of, but I feel like that's a whole other category of engagement that is at its infancy. And so I'm very excited to see where that goes and how we continue to evolve. What does connection mean beyond those two channels that I listed?
You mentioned about emotional connection. Do you think that is the secret for building a loyalty community, to touch into emotions?
Yeah, I think when I think about community, I think about relationships. And so think about your most like thriving and amazing relationships with people or brands. They make you feel something. You see their advertisement on TV, or you hear them in a podcast, and their storytelling is so incredible. Like it just brings an emotional connection to you, from you to the brand. You think about the people that are a part of their brand. So whether it's the founder or the people that work there, or if you're in a retail store, the associates on the floor, their customer experience is so amazing that it makes you want to tell your friends. It makes you want to like write a review. It makes you want to become an affiliate. All those things drive that like emotional relationship to a brand.
Manouska, I'd love to know, looking at your background, kind of obviously starting with the Oprah magazine and kind of the editorial side and kind of evolving into Glossier, a brand that has successfully managed to really engage a community and foster it, and then kind of now moving into a tech platform that enables community to the even further extent, with that idea of being able to collaborate really as a community through digital. I think that's kind of a perfect mirror, kind of the evolution of how community are going from editorial world to fully tech. I would love to kind of, if you could share with our listener a little bit of your experience, kind of seeing the evolution of the role of community within that.
Yes. Oh my God. Like, I feel like, I mean, thank you for asking the $1 million question. I think if you look at my career trajectory, you're like magazines, then a brand, then tech. It feels like a lot, but there's a through line of like people and experiences there. But the format has changed, right? You went from editorial magazines, like print, digital, like print to digital. And so you're thinking about your reader, your audience, and how they're engaging with, for Oprah. They're engaging with products that she loves. They're engaging with like the stories that you're telling them. And so thinking about how you're creating an experience for that audience in that format that makes them feel emotionally connected to the brand, but that's also adding value. And then you go over to Glossier, a true like beauty brand, who was able to really galvanize like people who were just interested in beauty and that came to Glossier for the product, but stayed for the emotional connection to the brand and to the people that were at the brand. And then moving into tech with my newest, adventure at Miro, you're thinking about people who are digitally native, tech savvy, engineers, like all of these incredible community members that I'm still getting a chance to meet, and how they engage with this tech software that is really revolutionizing the way that they work and collaborate with others. And so although the medium changes, the through line is people, it's experiences, it's giving people the tools to connect with you and your brand and also other people. And then the umbrella of it all is like making sure that that relationship is healthy and thriving.
In that relationship, making sure it's really two ways. I know that one of the things that I thought was fascinating from your when we were talking about some of your experiences, and namely the one at Glossier, is like being able to receive product feedback and be able to make adjustment. And I'm sure that's going to be something that's also going to come to play when it comes to Miro, how to really approach this conversation, as we're part of the community, the brand is part of the community, and the brand is also listening to the feedback and kind of adjusting from that. How important is it for you to kind of have that brand behavior when it comes to kind of adjusting to community feedback?
It's super important, Raphael. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because I think the ways that brands used to operate, and there's still many brands that are operating with like this older model of, brand marketing and engaging with customers. But I think what made, Glossier really successful, and other brands that we have now seen that have, really created like community-centric brands, is that they listen. They're not just telling you as the customer what you need to put on your body or your skin or what you need to ingest. They're having a conversation with you. They're putting out products and services out into the world, but they're also asking for feedback. They're asking, how do we iterate? How do we make this better? They want to co-create with other people that are most engaged with their products. And I think with this co-creation, a very big distinction for me is we not only want to co-create with our customers and our community, but we also want to have a perspective and a point of view that differentiates us in the market. I think that's also very, very important. Being able to have that bi-directional relationship with your audience, with your community, but also having a perspective as a brand, and that differentiates you from the rest, but also can be very clear that we co-created this with our community, but we also have a perspective on how we want to engage in this space.
I love that. And the co-creation is something that is like we are I'm obsessed myself about it, because I truly believe that, especially nowadays, it's not just about co-creating with like influencer and a brand, but adding the consumer into that co-creation element as well. It's so important, because sometimes, there is this perception that co-creation is between a talent and a brand, right? And then we tend to forget about the consumer, right? But like, how can we co-create it, adding the element, the consumer, into the full cycle, right? So the listening to, like you mentioned, about to listening to your community, addressing the feedback, and then act on it. But there is a key challenge for a brand, for the majority, of the brands that are trying to find, like the key element to actually drive their community is like how agile we can be when it comes to listening to our community and address their feedback, right? Because we're talking about a community that you mentioned that's beyond social. We have the online and the offline. So I'm sure that especially at Glossier, you probably had a lot of feedback coming across all channels. How do you filter that? And how do you filter it? So how do you address for that community that you're acting into it, to make it then feel part of what you're creating? So just a curiosity of mine, because Glossier, you guys did it so well on that sense, right? So all the product that Glossier was creating and still do is based on feedback. But how do you filter that and through so many channels and address that to the community?
Yeah, I mean, it's no easy feat. I want to be very clear. There's so much feedback out there that you can sometimes become dizzy with all the feedback, and filtering it is so important. And I think that there are several ways you can do this. There's one, like using listening tools to see what are the most engaged conversations, and what's the product feedback that you're hearing, and like kind of aggregating all of that and surfacing it up to your product team so that they can kind of think about their roadmap, because they're working sometimes 2, 3, 4 years in advance on like, where does this feedback fit into their roadmap, and if they can integrate it. And we always want to try to do that. And, we always want to think about what's the biggest value for the customer, but also what is the biggest value for the brand as well. So relationship, right? There has to be a balance. And then there's also like, you can create community insight programs where you actually like have a group of customers and engaged community members come in and actually give product feedback on unreleased product. So that's something that I did at Glossier that was really, really fruitful for all teams, like brand, product, all teams. And so there's no right way to do it, but I think it's really important to think about like, how do we meet the customer's needs? And then also, how do we meet the business needs? And then what are these like mechanisms that we use to actually like get that feedback, surface it up to the right teams, and then also communicate it out to the community. And you'll notice I say community and customer often, because I always want to be very clear that like, just because someone purchases from you doesn't mean that they're a part of your community.
Right.
I think once you move them down that funnel and like you see that they're having that like repeat purchasing behavior, they're having that brand loyalty and that advocacy that we talked about, and they're engaging with you on multiple surfaces, I think they become a community member. But you also don't want to forget about the people who they just like love your product. They love your service. They're going to come, but they don't need to be so involved, but you need to integrate them as well.
I have a great experience with Glossier. I remember like once I went to it was like they just opened the pop-up in New York and in Soho. And there was like that massive queue outside. And I was just like, I need to get in because, like I work in this industry. I really want to know what is the first inside is about. And I remember I bought some products, and then I was so impressed with the experience that I had inside the store that I filmed and I posted on my stories. And after, I promise you, like 5 minutes that my stories went live, I received a direct message from Glossier saying, "Oh, we are very glad that you come to the store. Hope you have enjoyed it. Tell us what you bought." And I was just like, I'm going to tell what I bought just to see how quickly they're going to respond it back. So I responded back saying what I have bought and then engaging with me on the conversation because I was like, how can it be so agile? Because the store is full of people. So do you think they are doing that with everyone? So I engaged them on like for a 10 minutes conversation and I got response immediately. So for me, that was as a great benchmark of like how a brand is actually not just creating that community, but engaging with a community in a very efficient way. For me, that was like, wow. But to your point, it's not easy, right? To be filtering and getting all the feedback and responding to all the feedback. How do you make a community to be loyal to you, to engage with you? Is there any secret into that? Because engagement is like if you wanted to have a community, you have to engage then. Do you think it's through, experience? Is through affiliate program? What's your thought about affiliate? Do you think a discount, getting commission is a way also to get community to be engaged to your brand?
I think, the first thing for me is like a quality customer experience. Like, once again, you purchase the product, like what's that user experience? What's that community experience? You have a bad reaction to something. How does the customer, experience team handle that? How does it handle shipping and all of that, all of those things? And then, yes, you can set up, you can set up different programs that allow people to continue to like redeem or earn points or earn commissions, like affiliate programs, loyalty and reward programs. And so I think there are different programs and initiatives that you can do, but I will always go back to like customer experience and making sure that that's the first thing that you have like done really well so that people can advocate about your brand or your service. And then also thinking through what are the programs that help people continue to like get value from your brand as they purchase or engage with you.
One of the aspects that we love to kind of dive in for communities, how we can kind of use influencers kind of part of like shaping their relationship with community, because they are themselves are oftentimes brands in the sense that they also have that community following and people that are engaged with them, and they know what their community care about, and maybe people more you feel more comfortable reaching out to someone and sharing, oh, I'm thinking about this, I'm interested in knowing like what product would do X, Y, and Z, versus I'm not necessarily going to go and message a brand about that, because you feel kind of connected, and they're a little bit like that proxy to accessing the community. I know, for example, we've been doing at MG quite a lot of programs where we include the voice of influencer in the marketing development. Like, for example, we were part of launching Stripes with co-creating with Naomi Watts, and including kind of the voice of influencer to be able to reflect that community voice. And I know we've went through a similar process together, Manouska. What do you think what do you think they can add influencer to the conversation when it comes to helping brands navigate their community building the right way?
Yeah, influencers, and there's different types, as like your micro, your nano to your macro. They serve such an important role in storytelling and in reach and in just like having a perspective to reach audiences that you may not be able to on your own. And so I think that influencers, key relationship with their community is so important, because like I said, there are some communities that you just can't tap into just because it doesn't maybe feel like traditionally like native, or you just don't have that sort of reach. And so influencers serve as like the storytellers, the way to connect your brand to their community. They serve as like being able to reach different demographics on the internet and in the world. And then they also like work with you as partners to create like really compelling content, UGC, that could be used across different channels. They can also be hosts, they can be spokespeople within your physical locations. There's just like the opportunities are like limitless. It just depends on your relationship with those influencers and where you want to plug them into your different marketing tactics. Oh, and one of my favorites, affiliates. Like, I think it's so it can be so powerful for different brands, depending on what your brand is doing, to leverage that sort of like affiliate model when it comes to like having people constantly talking about your brand and sharing it with their audience and them receiving commission, because it's a relationship, and like any relationship, you want it to be equally as valuable for both.
You mentioned content. This is another word. So we talk about co-creation, community, and then content. Let's talk about content, because you have the community, but if you don't have a great content to share with your community or vice versa, then how are we going to engage with your customers, right? So I think content, again, more than ever as community, become a key drive for any brand. How do you see that content element being part of building a strong community? Because at the end of the day, you mentioned about the emotional connection, yes, but how to get that emotional connection is through a content, and the content needs to be relatable, needs to be authentic. Throughout your experience with the public, like publication, and then with Glossier, and now with Miro, how do you see content playing that part on building community?
What I mean, it's huge, right? Like think about your experience when you went to the Glossier pop-up and how the store and the experience was so incredible that you whipped out your phone. You're like, I just want to record this. I want to put it on my
I
social.
did. I
And
did.
you couldn't help yourself. You didn't go there to like, create content, but the experience was so great that you had to tell someone about it. And so when we think about content, we can think about it in so many ways. Content can be video, it could be a post, like a written post. Content could be an image that you put up. I think it really depends. Like each company will define content in a different way, but I think that user generated content could be in so many forms. But it's super important, people want to see other people engaging with your brand. It can't just be like, assets that were shot in a studio by, big corporate or anything. You have to constantly try to see, people want to constantly see the brand through other people's eyes and experiences. So I think that content piece is huge. And, like I said, whether it's a video that goes up on Instagram, or it's a written post in a forum, or similar like to Miro, we do like Miroverse templates that people are always creating. It's always nice to see people reflected through your brand, and I think people really gravitate towards that because it feels authentic, it feels real.
I'm very curious, like how do you creating your community within a tech platform, and how are you engaging that experience to the actual users to put the word out there to continue to increase your community and drive more attention to Miro? So, because it's very different from a brand perspective, I would believe.
So if you're familiar with Miro, it's, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, it's a digital whiteboarding tech software company, and we create these boards called like Miro boards. It's like an infinite canvas where you can create tons of different like workflow, workshops, facilitation group sessions on there, like tons of things. And part of it is also that you can create templates in the Miroverse. So these templates could be anything from like you are a digital, like you're a lean, agile, like worker or facilitator, and you happen to have this like perfect template that always does a really fantastic job on, getting you your end result. And you're like, what, this is really valuable for me and it's valuable for my community. I want to create a template in the Miroverse and have other people use this template. And so that's kind of the way that Miro sees content. I also lead their community forums group. So this is where people come to our forum space, which I'm in the process of revamping and revitalizing. And they post content within the forum. So that's anything from like asking a question to sharing a really inspiring tip on how they used Miro. So it's a little different from, seeing selfies of people with really great brows and like wearing really great blush. But it's cool to see how people want to reflect what they learn or what they find most inspiring with your brand to others.
It's almost like a different, like even like further level, like past content. Now it's like offering them a tool, and we talk about co-creation. I mean, you're offering them a tool of co-creation, and they are creating some of the templates for you. And I think like really embracing that, like you provide the tool for them to play with it, but they also provide content, but not the traditional content like, hi, it's an Instagram story. It's actually just a template, and it kind of like shows the richness of that collaboration. And I mean, that type of platform really works if you have an engaged community who participates into that, who feed the platform, and then it kind of takes on a life on its own. But you want to be able to kind of monitor the community so it gets into the right direction and keep advancing the conversation. But yeah, it's pretty impressive to be able to get to a place where you can kind of offer the springboard for people to be able to co-create with others like that, beyond kind of traditional content, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also what attracted me to Miro and, moving towards tech, is that like I had gotten to the experience of like fostering and building those community connections in magazines, editorial. Then I got it, at a big beauty brand. And then now to see how people reflect their community, like how they value, community through a tech software platform was very interesting to me. And so, yeah, UGC content comes in many forms.
Exactly. That was what I'm about to say, that in the end of the day, doesn't matter what's what is the product, because at the end of the day, everyone is looking for a great experience to be able to share with the community a great content about the emotional connection that they're getting with the product that they are experiencing. I didn't know about Miro until I have, there's our new strategy director. He joined for about 3 months. And the first week I said to him, I wanted to see your plan for the strategy department and understand like what's the direction you wanted to take moving forward with the team. And he came after a week to the boardroom to present, and then he opened Miro, and it was just like all this white canvas that he created. And I was like, what is this, Joel? And it's like, it's Miro, like you never heard about it. I was like, no. And now the whole department, the strategy department, is using it, and it's incredible how now they're being much more collaborative just because of Miro. Like it's a tool that's enabled them to really be collaborative. It is incredible.
I mean, I'm always looking for like coming from editorial, I'm a storyteller. I think about how do you bring experiences and storytelling together, and so I'm constantly looking for things that help me visually tell stories or like convey a strategy better. And so the templates, like I mentioned in the Miro verse, it's like, whoa, okay, yeah, this is how I want to show my strategy, or this is how I want to plan out my content. And they have it already there for you, and you can just like continue to build on it. It's quite incredible.
Storytelling. Rafa, no, go. I get so excited that I just like I can start talking, but like, no, Rafa, go.
So what has it been like, kind of like shifting from, I mean, the beauty world has such an intense kind of really kind of engaged community, and something, especially on social platform, people share a lot of content and want to talk about and debate a lot, and kind of like now, like having made your move to tech, and kind of engagement, but like as we discussed, takes such a different form. How has been the experience of transitioning from one to the other?
I mean, it's been like any transition in life, like exciting, nerve-wracking, hard, exciting some more. Like it's like an emotional roller coaster. And I'm constantly telling people that like it's a re-education on like how to do the things that you know how to do really well, but in a different way. And so I will not, lie that it's hard. It's really hard transitioning from different industries, different jobs, but it's rewarding to see that the things that you have built in the past can be translated. It's just like a new audience. It's a new channel, And so it's one of those things that like it will constantly be an education for me. And luckily I like love to learn. And so it's something that I'm excited about. It's challenging, but it also, I can already see myself. Like I told my brother the other day, I'm like getting so much smarter just by working here and just like learning how to do different things and how different people operate. And, it's such a global company. And so you're just learning how different walks of life like communicate. It's just like such an education that is super rewarding, but also like challenging, but super rewarding some more.
And as you love so much storytelling and you like to create stories, how do you see storytelling being replicated now into Web3 or into NFTs and metaverse? As we said at the beginning of our conversation, that community is what's gonna drive, at least to my perspective, is what's gonna drive the Web3 to be a success, because it's gonna be all about the community building. We're seeing, this new environment. So how do you see telling? How do you envision creating stories for this new universe?
Web3, once again, I will not pretend to be a Web3 expert, but what I do know about community building and like just being in a digital space is that people are constantly looking for more immersive experiences. They're constantly looking on ways to connect with other people beyond their scope or their imagination. And I feel like Web3 and all the, activities and engagement that can happen there really offer a like just brand new way of seeing the world and engaging with other people and connecting with people far beyond your scope. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to storytell. I think right now we still are not quite sure what this Web3 thing will be, right? And so there's so much more room to storytell on like what Web3 is and like who can be found there and the types of things you can do there. I think that storytelling is like so critical, and I think still is being like toyed on a little bit, which is exciting. And then I think about when you actually do bring your community into a Web3 environment, like unlocking what is so valuable in that environment versus like an offline environment or in a traditional like internet or traditional like web experience. So again, I will not, act like I'm the biggest expert, and I'm constantly looking at the developments that are happening in Web3 and how people want to engage there. Because again, you have to meet where your community where they are, and what are the different like immersive experiences you can create for people while you're there.
I love what you said about like understanding if your community, if your customer are ready as well will be an important, part of going into this, the Web3, because it's very important, again, to my perspective, to understand if your customer are ready to actually to that experience, right? And understand that there will be customer that will be ready for that experience, but there will be some that they don't even will be interesting to that experience. They want the traditional ways of engaging with the brand. So is that when the social listening again play a huge part, right? And I feel like influencers and community will play a huge part on educating how to go to this new universe. And then brands will have to have that sense of, okay, it might not gonna be for all my customers, to all my community, but I still need to create an experience in there based on the the feedback that the community is giving for us to driving into this new universe. Again, I'm not the expert as well on Web3, so I'm learning as we progress, but it will be very interesting to see how we're going to evolve into that direction. But I feel that we're still going to have those, customers that we will still want to engage in a different format that not necessarily is going to be the Web3. And the offline experience, again, I think is going to continue to especially after the pandemic, right? We were like for 2 years without being able to have those, directly experience with brands and to meet with our community. And I feel that now customers, they are eager and they are hungry for more experience face to face. So like my perspective is like the Web3 it's coming, but also the offline experience will continue to play a huge part on continue to developing community.
I agree. I think we cannot neglect or forget that we spent 2 years and counting.
Can imagine.
Locked down. People are craving that like in-person experience still. But I think also what's exciting about Web3 for the people who are not quite ready is that like, look at when the internet started. Everyone was like, what is it? Like, what? Like,
yeah.
I don't understand this place. I don't really want to be there. Email, what is that? But look at us all. Look at us all now.
Look at all. Yeah,
Look
we're here recording a podcast.
Literally.
Literally, it has to be gripped. The internet has to be gripped, in the chokehold. So, there's
Understanding
always,
the consumer, like
yeah.
understanding the consumer behavior. And I think like through your expertise, I think like through the platform, like the platform doesn't really matter, like whether it's a magazine, whether it's in store or digital, or now through a tool and in the metaverse. I think the right blend of, yeah, you need some subject matter expertise. Like I'm not necessarily going to know how to build a world in Roblox physically, but like being able to understand what are kind of the consumer dynamics and the community feel that you need to foster. I think making sure that as we move into Web3, it doesn't mean that the technical expertise has to kind of take over from the human experience, and having people like yourself, Manouska, who kind of are able to channel kind of the community energy into a really strong partnership with brand, I think is really key in order to build that world first into something that we will all enjoy, and second into like a space that's not just tech led but tech enabling even better human interaction, right?
Well said.
At the end of the day, it's all about testing, learning, and listening to your customers and community, right?
Iterate.
Iterate, and listen, take it in. Just take it in and then do better and creating more connection with your customer. Manouska, we could stay here forever because I love learning from people like you. So thank you so much for the time. It's been a pleasure. And I'm sure our listeners today have much enjoyed our conversation. So thank you so much. Very grateful for you to have taken the time. Rafa, once again, what a pleasure to have you with me as my co-host. Thank you so much for taking the time as well. And hope you both have
This was
enjoyed.
wonderful. Thank you for having me. And you know where to find me on the internet.
Always. So thank you so much for everyone that's been listening us today. If you're not following us yet, please make sure you do on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, and Apple. And I will see you soon on our next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in on our Influencer Marketing Covered podcast. Thank you so much, and I see you guys soon.